Okay, I have my thumbs wrapped around the back of my rib cage, and I'm trying to feel for my very last rib. It's okay if you're having a hard time finding it, just do your best to feel what you can at your rib cage with your thumbs, and then with your fingers, find your pelvis. And notice maybe one side of your pelvis is up higher than the other. So on this case, my left side is a lot shorter than my right. Do your best to even yourself out by pushing through your pelvis to elongate. So we're keeping as much space as we can between our ribs and our pelvis. And then we're gonna activate our transverse abdominis. So what I'm thinking about doing is, you can even do a little bit of a Kegel where you're pulling a blueberry up and in, or if you're a man, you're having a testicular lift. So we're having that little bit of a lift inside of you, and then wrapping the transverse abdominis on by almost like lacing up your inner corset. So I'm feeling tension, or I'm feeling the space between my ribs and my pelvis, and then taking a nice deep breath in to gain length and space. And then as I breathe out, I'm lacing up my corset, lifting up and in, and I'm just having this gentle contraction. I can feel the muscle kind of raising up into my fingers. Hold that for a breath or so. A lot of times people try to hold their breath, but that's not going to do us any good when we're trying to exercise. So I'm holding my transverse abdominis, keeping length between my waist, and then relax. Do that for a couple more times. Let's do that again. So deep breath in, fill up your belly, make space lengthwise and 360 degrees around my rib cage, and then breathe out. I'm lifting up, Kegel, lacing in my ribs, keeping the length, and then also holding this while I'm breathing. If you still feel like it's difficult to maintain the contraction while you breathe, continue to practice this. If you feel like you're able to easily breathe without strain in your neck, or you're not losing the contraction, we can progress going onto our hands and knees. So make sure we set ourselves up in a nice position. If you can, have a mirror next to you so you can kind of see where the position of your spine is. My hands are directly underneath my shoulders, and my knees are directly underneath my hips. And I have a nice width between my hips as well. And between my knees, I don't want your knees too far in or too far out. Right underneath. And then also pay attention to the distance between your hands and your knees. If you're shortened up like this, think of this as like the distance of your torso. You're not this short. So bring yourself right underneath, hands right underneath shoulders, knees right underneath hips. And now we're going to return back to finding that length between our pelvis and our ribs. So I'm energetically thinking about reaching my tail outwards behind me, and then reaching my crown in front of me, and giving a little bit of a push into the floor and into my tops of my feet to get myself to lift up out, so I'm not sunk down like this. So as I push up, I'm getting a little bit of engagement of my transverse abdominis and keeping length through my sit bones and through my crown. See if you can hold this with breathing, or try to hold this with breathing. It shouldn't feel that challenging. We're just on our hands and knees. And now to make things a little bit more challenging, dig your toes down, pushing through my hands and my toes. I'm starting to lift my knees, but they're still touching the floor. I'm starting to feel my transverse abdominis engage, and then relax back down. So deep breath in, elongate your spine, stay lifted up out of yourself, and then exhale, start to pull in that transverse abdominis, lace up your inner corset, and hover your knees just barely off the floor, like the distance so that an ant can crawl underneath, and then lower down. I don't want you to feel any tension in your back. Everything should be in your front body. Keep going with that.